Okay, so we've done a bit of part modeling now. You should have all the tools to create, believe it or not, just a wide variety of parts. It probably feels like you've only learnt the basics, but believe me, most parts can be made with those basic commands. It's just a case of getting used to it and getting the imagination going on which commands will produce which result, and that really does come with practice. So yeah, start just modelling simple things and working out how best to make those shapes. But for now in this course we're going to move on to assemblies. So things are going to get a little bit more advanced, but we are going to start with very basic assemblies. Okay, so the first assembly we're going to do is just a simple box, and in terms of build and how it will be put together, it will be the simplest box you can get. Okay, so we are going to start by doing more parts first, which is how you would start an assembly. So this, you'll see the whole workflow of a simple assembly process here. So click on part to start a new part. Make sure you're in your beginners course project folder, or whatever you've called it. Okay, we'll just let that load up. Okay, so we have a blank screen, and what we're going to do two different sides to this box just to help us differentiate between the two. So I'm going to do, like I say, it's going to be simple. It's going to be 300mm by 400mm by 100mm. Okay, so we'll start a 2D sketch. We'll work on this plane. Again, doesn't really matter which plane you choose, but we are going to make sure we keep it central. So we're going to do a rectangle, center point rectangle. Okay, and I'm going to make this 100mm, and tab key, remember, and then I'm going to put for this one 300mm. Okay, and if we zoom out, there we go. So that will be one side of our box. I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to leave it at 10mm, but I'm going to do it symmetrical to keep it symmetrical on our plane, and I'm going to click OK. So this will be one side of our box. Okay, and I'm going to save that as box side 01. Actually, box side 300, just so we know which is which. Okay, now for the next side it's going to be pretty much the same. We could start again from scratch, but we can just go save as, and I'm going to click save as, and I'm going to save it as box side 400. Okay, so now we can see we're in this file box size 400, but we still have a 300 long side, so we can expand our extrusion to get the sketch, and we can select it and right click, edit sketch, and then all we need to do is double click that dimension and change it to 400. Okay, and then finish that, and now we can save, and there you go. And we do have, if we open that, we have box size side 300, which is still 300mm, and we have 400. So that's a good way of speeding up your workflow by using existing similar parts and changing elements. Just make sure you do both save the original before and then save as a new file, and make sure you're working on the correct file. Okay, so let's start our, let's go to new, and this time we're going to choose assembly. Okay, and we're going to go with standard IAM. Okay, and again we're using millimeters, so we can create this, and you'll see it opens up a blank screen, and it looks a lot like the part, the base, when you start a new part, and it is a lot like that. At first you have your view cube, you have your origin planes and axes, the same as a part file. But up here you've got some different commands, okay? And the one we're looking for really at the moment is this place command. So we click on place, and it will ask us what the place command is for placing part files into your assembly. Okay, so we're going to place, let's place one of those 400s, okay, and then okay that, and then we'll place a 300, okay, and then right click, okay. So you can see here in our assembly file we've now got one of each of our sides, okay, but we need to fix those together. So what I want to do is to go to this up here and constrain command. And what constrain does, it constrain, you can almost think of it like glue, like sticking something together or fixing something together. It will allow you to fix this part to that part in various different ways, okay? So if we click on constrain, you'll see this box, which can look quite complicated at first, but you'll soon be flying around this, you'll soon be getting used to it. The different types of constraint we'll look at as we use them, okay, but for now we're going to use this mate command, and all that means is stick A to B, stick this item to that item, okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to have one side 300, okay, and the other side, which is 400, we need to work out which side is going to stick to which, because one side is going to kind of be butt jointed onto the other, which will make it more than the length. That probably sounds more complicated than it needs, so I'll show you what I mean. So we'll leave this as 400, okay, and then we're going to make sure we click on mate and we select this one, this mate command. The other option is to have things in line. We'll use that, I'll show you that, but for now we want mate, and we're going to select the end of that 300 side, and we're going to mate it onto the face of that one, okay, and you'll see it makes a, if you've got your sound on, it makes a kind of clicking noise, which you may or may not like, you may or may not wish to turn your volume down, but it does give you a nice, especially when you're learning, it lets you know that it's worked, because sometimes when you get complicated assemblies, sometimes certain things won't go together. We'll probably see that later, okay, but for now that has created a constraint. It has made this side be joined from that face onto there, okay, and once you've done that, you can grab your parts, okay, let me okay that, you can grab your parts and you can move them about, but if you see, it won't let you, wherever you move it, it's still going to be joined onto that face. If I move it here, it looks like I've moved it away, but if we pan, or sorry, we rotate onto the side view, there you'll see I haven't actually moved it off that plane. Okay, now when I selected that face and I asked it to join onto that face, remember Inventor works on planes, so it wasn't actually joining it onto that the face of that part. It was putting, what it's basically doing is putting this plane of this part onto that plane of that part. So it will allow you, if we look in this view, it will allow you to move it off the part itself, but it will always keep those planes together. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm just trying to let you know that you do need to also, in order to get what we want, we need to do another few constraints here, okay, and usually when you put something together, it will need more than one constraint. All we've taught it so far is that they both sit on this plane. But what we want is for them to be joined properly. Okay, so we'll click on constraints again, and this time we're going to choose mate, but we're going to choose this option, which is flush. And what flush will do is it will say, I want this face here to be flush with this part, the face of this part here. Okay, so now we've got two constraints on these parts. We've got the first one, which was this face here is on that face plane there, and we've got this face here and that face are flush. So it will still have some movement, but only in this direction now, because it has two constraints on it. Okay, and what we call when you've got some movement like this, it's known in Inventor as a degree of freedom. Okay, and you come onto that later when you're doing animations and assemblies and things, advanced assemblies, sorry. You want to know some things. You might want a degree of freedom. If you've got some kind of robotic or a machine that needs to turn or needs to rotate, you will want to keep a certain degree of freedom in order that you can see it moving. In our case here, this needs to be completely fixed, so we're missing another constraint here, and you might have guessed what it is. We're going to do another flush constraint, so it's mate and flush, and we're going to make the top surfaces flush with each other. Okay, so now we've done that, if you tried to grab it, they will both move together. Okay, so these two pieces are completely fixed together now, and that is one of each side of our box. Okay,